Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Lux Industries Limited Q4 FY21 earnings conference call. This conference call may contain forward-looking statements about the company, which are based on the beliefs, opinions, and expectations of the company as on date of this call. These statements are not guarantees of future performance and involve risks and uncertainties that are difficult to predict. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Saket Todi from Lux Industries Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you everyone joining the earnings conference call to discuss the performance for the quarter and full year ended 31st March 2021. Along with me, I have Mr. Udit Todi, Executive Director, our CFO, Mr. Saurabh Bhudolia, and SGA, our Investor Relation Advisors. I hope you and your family are keeping safe during these tough times. The second wave of COVID, which started in the first quarter of FY22, has been more severe than the last year. We at Lux Industries understand the importance of following the necessary COVID protocols issued by the authorities, and we extend full cooperation in the fight against COVID. Our employees have been made aware of the need to adhere these guidelines and are taking all the precautions. We are pleased to report a resilient performance for the quarter gone by. After the initial challenges posed by the restrictions and lockdowns at the start of the year, we have bounced back extremely well to cover the lost ground, but also outperform last year numbers as well. The performance has been majorly driven by progressive improvement in demand and consumption across the innerwear industry. We witnessed healthy traction for our economy and mid-premium categories and saw a gradual pickup in our premium and export segment. While demand remains strong, the supply situation over the next few months is likely to be adversely impacted by the disruptions from COVID-19 lockdowns in India. But we expect it to be better than last year, as businesses are more prepared than last year and the lockdowns are restricted to certain states and not the entire country. We expect Q1 FY22 to be relatively weak due to the pandemic and expect to improve gradually from the second quarter. We will remain well equipped to address these challenges and drive consistent, competitive and cash accretive growth over the medium to long term. The innerwear industry is constantly evolving, and we have always been at the forefront of this evolution, having implemented innovative ways of offering differentiated products in the market by undertaking breakthrough marketing and brand promotion activities. Our commitment towards addressing environment, social and governance related issues has been unparalleled. We understand the need of a sustained progress of society to pursue the long-term goals that are beneficial for the community and helps us to make a difference in society by giving back in equal measures. Coming to our performance for the quarter and the year ended 31st March 2021, FY21 net revenue is up by 17% to rupees 1965 crore, whereas for the quarter 4 FY 2021 is up by 49% to rupees 601 crore, highest ever quarter in the history of Lux. Between the categories, premium segment has registered a total growth of 48%, whereas mid-premium and economy has registered a growth of 42 and 59%. Overall volumes for FY21 and Q4 21 increased by 13% YOY and 29% YOY respectively, which was well above the industry average. Given our steady increase in volume and other strategic initiatives, we have been able to increase our market share during the year. Lux enjoys approximately 15% market share in the organized men's innerwear category. In line with our guidance for advertisement and the marketing spend for FY22, our spending for the year stood at rupees 106 crore, which is approximately 5.4% of the total revenue. We expect to gradually reinstate and make it back to 7% of our revenue for the current financial year. With this, I will now ask Mr. Udit Todi to share his thoughts.
Hello, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to everyone. I hope everyone is keeping safe and healthy during this situation. I am glad to share that during quarter 4 FY21, we have completed the merger of J.M. Hosiery Company and Ebell Fashions Private Limited with the company Lux Industries Limited. The merger of these two companies with Lux will strengthen our presence across geographies and product categories and bring in a lot of operational and financial synergies. Our company has posted robust performance for the year ended 31st March 21 despite COVID-19 pandemic-induced challenges. Also, with the completion of merger, we are reporting the merged financials for FY21 as well as FY20. Besides, these companies will also help us strengthen our post-merge business model. J.M. Hosiery and Company Limited with the brand Genex and others, while Ebell Fashions Private Limited with the brand Lyra. Their coming into Lux's umbrella will strengthen our overall portfolio. This in turn will help us leverage our men's innerwear portfolio with a value-added women's wear portfolio, which will make it possible for us to carve away a larger share of the overall wardrobe spending. This merger will also help to unlock substantial value for our stakeholders and streamline the business as well as help us to achieve a newer growth trajectory. Our EPS post-merger FY21 stood at 90.25 versus 48.66 pre-merger state last year. We have a strong presence in central, eastern, northern and western parts of the country and have plans to foray into southern region of India very soon. The region-wise revenue contribution as of now stands at Northern India being about 30%, Eastern India about 28%, Western India 21%, Central India 18%, South India 3%. While revenue split from segment stood as follows: mid-premium contributing 57%, economy about 31% and premium about 12%. Lux, which is a dominant player in the men's innerwear segment, is also accelerating its growth driver via new expansions to capture market share in the ladies and kids segment. With the business of Genex and Lyra getting merged into Lux, the company will have a larger product offering that also offers premium innerwear under the brand On and One8. Post-merger, Lux Industries Limited would be among the top company in terms of volume, pan-India wise, reaching up to 300 million pieces for FY21. Online sales, which has more than doubled in the last few quarters and continuously showing this same growth trajectory and is expected to reach the 100 crore mark within the next 3 to 4 years. EBOs, under the name of Cozy World, are the new offerings which will again help us to accelerate and achieve our vision. In working capital side, we have been able to continuously optimize our working capital cycle days. For the year ended 21, our working capital days stood at 122 days, a significant improvement of 38 days over the last year. We continue to maintain our net cash company status and have a gross cash and cash equivalent balance of 261 crores. We believe despite the challenging situation caused due to COVID-19, your company has demonstrated superior execution during the recent past and has successfully leveraged the power of our brand and our distribution network to sail through these tough times. We have always strived to make our products available with speed so that they are always available on the shelves when the customer needs them. This has been able to be achieved with a 95% fill rate versus an industry average of 80%. With this, I would now request our CFO, Mr. Saurabh Bhudolia, to take you through the financial performance.
Thank you, Udit. Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon and warm welcome to all. Our company reported a strong performance for the quarter and full year ended 31st March 2021. Our revenues for quarter 4 2021 stood at rupees 601 crore versus rupees 404 crores, registering a stellar growth of 49%. Our EBITDA has stood at rupees 129 crores as compared to rupees 66 crores in quarter 4 financial year 2020, a strong growth of 95%. We have been able to improve our EBITDA margin by more than 500 basis points. So current EBITDA margin percentage is at around 21.45% as compared to 16.4% in quarter 4 2020. Our PAT for the quarter stood at rupees 91 crores versus rupees 41 crores in quarter 4 last year, which registered more than double growth of 118%. PAT margin for the quarter stood at rupees 15.07%, showing an improvement of more than 470 basis points as compared to last year, same quarter. Moving to our yearly performance, our revenue stood at rupees 1965 crore vis-a-vis rupees 1674 crores. We are happy to share that we have registered the highest ever revenue in FY21, registering a growth at a rate of 17% over the same period last year. Our sales and marketing expenses stood at rupees 106 crore, which is approximately 5.4% of our revenue. In last 5 years, we have invested around 641 crores to build our brand. EBITDA for current year stood at rupees 393 crore as compared to 275 crore same period last year, growth rate at a rate of 43% YOY. The EBITDA margin has seen an improvement of 355 basis points, which stood at 19.99% versus 16.4% in FY20. PAT for current year stood at rupees 269 crore as compared to 177 crore last year, FY20. Growth rate at a rate of 52%. The PAT margin has also shown a big improvement with 300 plus basis points as compared to last year same period. Our return on capital employed also went up by 2%. Last year it was 34, whereas in this year the ROC is coming at 36%. As rightly said by Udit ji, our working capital days reduced to 122 days as compared to 160 days last year. Significant improvement by 38 days in the working capital cycle. The debt to equity ratio for the year stood at 0.13 multiple. During the FY 2021, company has generated an operating cash flow of rupees 389 crore, out of which around 66 crores we have been used for the purpose of capex. Another 112 crore has been used to repay the borrowing. As on closing date, the net cash positive with company is around 138 crores. With investment and other and the cash being invested in the bonds, the gross cash flow is coming at rupees 261 crore. Our prudent financial decisions have helped us reduce our debt and become a net cash positive company. Please note the numbers highlighted in the speech and the presentations are consolidated numbers post completion of merger with our group companies JM Hosiery and Company Limited and with Ebell Fashion Private Limited. Now let me quickly give you an update on the dividends. Considering the current pandemic situation, the board of directors of the company has decided to conserve the cash and postpone the decision to declare any dividend for the financial year ended 31st March 2021. Looking at how the pandemic situation will evolve, the board of directors would consider rewarding the shareholders in the due course of time. Additionally, on implementing better compliance and governance, we have continued our engagement with EY as our internal auditor, and we have also inducted Economic Law Practice ELP as our compliance consultant for the purpose of indirect taxes. The journey towards to appoint a Big Four is already on, and we are expecting that Big Four should be on board in the next 12 to 18 months. With this, we will now open the floor for questions and answers.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 at this time. first question is from the line of Varun Goenka from Nippon India AMC. Please go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, Saurabh, Saket, Udit. Let me first congratulate the exceptional performance, completely, unbelievable, and a very good detailed presentation. I think in terms of the brand-wise data that you guys have given, it's very commendable the way you've presented it. I have three broad questions. One, like you say in a presentation, 30 crore pieces, around 1960 crore revenue. So our ASP, our average ASP comes to around 66. So I thought it will be good to have your view. How do you, based on the product mix, and how do you see this ASP moving? At what rate should it grow? That's one. Second, in terms of our dealer throughput, where are we today, and where do you think, because we are launching so many adjacencies of women's wear and kids wear, where do you think this can go to? And final point, our mix around, top 8-10 cities sales versus the next 15-20 semi-urban, urban, rural, however we capture it, if we get that data. Those are the three questions here.
Thank you, Varunji. I'd like to pick up that question. You first mentioned about how the ASP would evolve in the coming few years. So as we see that the product mix has now been changing with athleisure coming in, women's wear coming in, that is why a change in ASP has already been witnessed. And going forward, we are seeing that the yarn prices are on the high. The yarn prices are still on the increase. So as the input costs increase, our output costs will also go up, which would result in a higher ASP, which would be an organic growth in ASP. Apart from that, we are expecting that in the current fiscal year, about 5%, the ASP should go by about 5%. And at the same time, we will be also looking at a better product mix if I talk slightly medium term to long term, we would see that the product mix would be changing towards higher ASP products such as outerwear and garments. So as the company goes ahead, we'll be selling more of garment wear rather than innerwear, which will gradually lead to a higher ASP inorganically also. And coming to your next question, you'd mentioned about the dealer throughput. So in the earlier presentations, we have mentioned that we are having about 950 plus odd dealers, which has now after the merger and everything increased to about 1150 plus dealers. So as a company policy, what we maintain is in any kind of a market, we assess the market situation, what is the depth of the market, what is the requirement of the market, and if we feel that we could get a better throughput by appointing a new distributor, only then do we go and appoint a new distributor over there. So that decision is taken on a market-to-market basis, because in some markets the distributors and dealers are so strong that they can handle maybe all the 2, 3, 4 brands combined together. Whereas in certain markets, the markets which are very remote and maybe a tier 3 or a tier 4 city, over there you'll have to depend on a single particular dealer, so as to say. So it truly depends on the market. But yes, going ahead, we see that South India is one of the regions where the company is aggressively looking to market itself. So that will be one area where we believe that inorganic growth in terms of sales, in terms of network and distribution, we will be seeing a good amount of sales going ahead from the South Indian market.
Right. And our sales mix towards however we capture metros, non-metros, semi-urban, urban, rural, if we have that.
So we do not have that quite handy with us right now, but we'll ask our IR team to get back to you once we have the data.
No.
So we've done more of a geographical split and a category-wise split, but tier 1 and tier 2 split, we do not have it handy with us. We'll get back to you.
Thank you, Saket, and wish you all the best. Just keep up this performance, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Bhargav Buddhadev from Kotak. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, team, and congratulations for a very strong execution.
Thank you.
So my first question is that post-merger, our revenue size has become close to about 2,000 crores. So do you believe that at this size, the acceptance of the brand amongst our customers as well as the trade channel can sort of significantly improve, and this in turn can help us push our new categories like the ones you mentioned, like women wear and kids wear? That's my first question.
Can you come again with the question again? Actually, it wasn't very clear.
Can you hear me properly now?
Yes. Can you be a little loud?
Sure. Sir, I said that our revenue size is now close to 2,000 crores. So given our size, do you believe that the acceptance of the brand with our customers as well as the channel partners can see a significant fillip, and they can sort of consider us more seriously, given that we are now close to 2,000 crores? And post this, will that be easier to sort of push our new categories like women's wear and kids wear more successfully?
Yes. As we can see that in the last financial year, there has been a very huge shift from the unorganized segment to the organized segment. And the brand which has the most pull towards the consumers are opting those brands in the organized segment. So we are seeing that the brand has a very strong acceptance in the organized market, mainly towards the mid-premium and the economy category. And out there, we are witnessing a very strong growth, which we haven't witnessed in the last few fiscal years, as well as to launch new segments. So we haven't concluded as of now that those new segments will be launched under the brand Lux or any other brand, or it can be a new brand altogether in itself. So we haven't concluded that, and as it will get concluded, then we can be able to give you a better picture that how that particular brand would be moving forward in its new segment.
Okay. The second question is on working capital. So we've done a very good job in terms of reducing our cash conversion cycle to about 122 days in FY21. Now that we are sort of a size to reckon with at 2,000 crores, do you think we can sort of go aggressive in terms of improving this further? And if so, what could be the targets that we are looking at in the next 2 years?
For this financial year, I don't think so it would be possible to reduce the working capital further, because as we are seeing the pandemic which is spreading out throughout the country, so it would be very unclear for us as of now that where the working capital would stand. But our target majoritively would be to maintain the working capital as it was last year. And for a long-term view over 3 to 5 years, yes, our target would be to reduce the working capital if the situation in the country remains normal.
And my last question is on price hikes. So do you believe that the inflation which we've seen in raw material has been broadly passed on through price hikes, or are we still in the journey of passing the entire inflation?
Till now, we have passed on whatever inflation has been taking place. We have passed on completely that to our consumers, and it has been very well accepted in the market. The price hike started from the month of November. The inflation started from the month of November, and the price hike started from the month of mid-December. So December, January, February, March, there were different trenches in which the price hike has been taking place, and there has been no adverse effect because of that.
Okay, thank you for the answers and all the very best for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nihal Jham from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much, and good evening, Saket and Udit. Hope you all are keeping safe. 3 questions from my side. First is, if I look at the performance of the 3 categories, that is in the premium, the mid-premium, and economy, for the year as a whole, we do see the divergence that economy is definitely outperformed. I know you've alluded to the fact that there has been a big shift of unorganized to organized. But other than that, anything worth highlighting about what has caused such a strong divergence, specifically maybe related to the other 2 segments also?
So as you see, during the last year, the COVID pandemic was in full swing, and it was the rural towns which are doing tier 2, tier 3 cities were doing much better than the urban areas. So when you look at the rural areas, the consumption is more for the economy products compared to the mid and the premium segment products. So that is why that is one of the major reasons, because rural market being more functional and more operational, we saw a shift slightly, the economy products fared well compared to the mid premium and the premium products. And that was primarily on account of A, unorganized to organized shift, and B, on account of the rural demand. And going ahead, as a direction, we have always maintained that we are looking at increasing our portion of mid-premium and premium segment. And if you look at, if you leave aside this exception of the COVID year, if you look at the trajectory of the segment-wise split, we have fairly moved more so towards the mid and the premium segment.
That's helpful. Just a related question. So this quarter's performance obviously includes the consolidation. If you have to compare this number to 2 years back, not last year, because last year I know you mentioned there was an impact which happened and that sales got spilled over to May and June. But compared to say 2 years back, how's the growth been this quarter?
You see, right now we are talking mostly on basis of the merged number, because even the FY20 numbers were revised for a like-to-like comparison. We had revised the FY20 numbers again on a merged entity basis. So talking about any figure for the pre-merged basis, we'll ask our IR team to get back to you.
Sure, I'll check that separately. The second question was, now with JM and Ebell being merged and the process more or less clear, we also see that there is an addition to the board related to those companies. But generally, as the new entity forms, what is the potential structure? Do we expect that you would have separate brand heads for those new brands? And what is it that would change now that it is a part of the Lux entity? I'm just trying to think aloud that would the marketing spends potentially be higher, or any other things that you may want to highlight post-merger?
So see, post-merger, the directors have a very clear-cut role with regards to what brands they are looking after. So, even apart from being, collectively together in a strategic decision-making process, but on a day-to-day operational basis, every director is taking care of a particular brand as per se. With regards to your marketing expenditure, last year we had seriously cut down on our marketing expenditure, and this year we were contemplating on bringing it back to normalcy. But after the second wave of the COVID and supposedly talks of a third wave also coming in, we will be looking at revising our marketing expense down again this year. Yes, we have also added a few independent directors on board with us. I would just ask our CFO to take you through them.
Hi, Nihal. So, this time, board of directors has approved to take 2 independent directors on the board. One is Mrs. Ratnabali Kakkar, another one is Mr. Rajneesh Rikhi. So let me quickly take you through with the candidature of Ratnaji Kakkar. So, Kakkar is a graduate in BA Honours from University of Calcutta, and she has done the business administration from IIM Calcutta. She has overall 40 years of rich experience in banking and financial services. She has taken the citizenship in London, based out in London, and she has a very good relation with several banking sector based out in London. And I believe she will add so much of the value in Lux by bringing the financial decision and to make it more governance and risk compliant company. Whereas Rajneesh Rikhi, he is a law graduate and holds a master degree in business admin from Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi University. Overall, again, he has 30 years of industry experience in sales, marketing and stores, other functions. He has worked and advised clients across pharma, FMCG, education, etc. He has also served as the Chief Revenue Officer at TV Today Network Limited, India Today Group. He was also associated with the Times Group as Director Response, and he also served as the Group CEO and Business Director at Kantipur Media. So I believe the company is moving towards to take the further step to professionalize the entire culture and the way of working. It should be more corporate governance, risk control, managed company. And with this, I believe once these 2 gentlemen will be on the board, it will really help company to scale up further.
Thanks, Saurabh. That's very helpful. I actually had my last question on this incremental aspect of corporate governance. It's a commendable part. You mentioned that you're looking at appointing one of the big four auditors also. As a timeline, isn't there a possibility that in the upcoming AGM you can change the auditors, or there are certain other processes because of which you're giving a 12 to 18 month timeline?
Nihal, on these AGM, if you're asking me specifically, it would be very difficult because just few months back we have started our journey. We are fixing the entire process and the system, and I believe on a shorter view, it will not be before 12 months, and on a larger timelines basis, not more than 18 months. So between 12 to 18, we are very confident that the big four will be on board.
Absolutely. Thanks, Saurabh, and congratulations once. We'll come back in the queue for my question.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Nihal.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ajay Khandelwal from BOI AXA Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. Sir, I wanted to know, with the kind of changes that we have done in our supply chain, and considering that our fill ratio is highest in the industry, what kind of working capital we can expect, and maybe qualitatively if you can highlight how we have achieved this and how is trade has responded to this, how is competition responded to this. That will be helpful to understand.
So see, as a company policy, we have looked at, even in the last 4 to 5 con calls, we have always mentioned that we are looking at bringing down our working capital days. So there were a couple of levers which we have used to bring it down. IT has played a very important role, in fact, in bringing us down. So we have invested a lot of time and effort in setting up our IT team. So all our dealers and distributors have now access to their set of accounts on their mobile phone itself. So that was one very big lever. And on the other hand, even in terms of credit period days, the company has become more strict with terms to credit days. Earlier, the company was slightly more flexible, but over a period of time, we have gradually reduced the credit days. And because a good amount of brand pull is now there in the market for our products, so even the dealers are now paying up, the dealers are now reducing their credit days, and they've been paying up quicker. That was one of the major factors. The other factors, if you also see that we have kind of, there has been slight change in the credit outstanding days for our vendors, because we believe that we do not want to increase our working capital efficiency by penalizing our vendors. And thirdly, if you see, our stock turn ratio has seriously increased. We've been able to manage our stock more efficiently, and so on basis of these 2 or 3 grounds, we've been able to reduce our working capital days. Right now, the current situation, it is difficult to project how this year will play out with regards to working capital, with regards to going forward, how the performance plays out. But going by the experience which we had last year, as soon as the markets open up, we see that our products are one of the basic necessities which the customer needs. So when it comes to apparel, vest and brief is one product that you cannot postpone the consumption of. So given our past experience, we are optimistic about the way going forward, but quite difficult to say how the year plays out. I think we'll be able to project it better at the end of quarter 1. So when we meet again once we meet again for the quarter 1 con call, we'll be able to give a clearer picture with regards to that aspect.
Sir, I'm trying to understand from the perspective of not compromising on our fill ratio. Will these levels be sustainable, and if competition extends credit period, then do we need to change our course?
No, not at all, not at all. So we believe that even 122 working capital days we believe that it's slightly on the higher side, and if I talk about medium to long term, we'll be willing it to reduce even further from here. And talking about competition, so see, every brand has their own brand strength and brand pull in the market. So we believe that the brand equity which we've enjoyed right now, the amount of money which we've invested in branding over the last 4-5 years. So this is the time to reap the benefits, and we believe that any effect of competition extending their credit period will not have any impact on our credit outstanding. In fact, I think it even works out to be better, because if the competition ends up giving more credit, your stock turn increases even better. It always works out, it's a very counterintuitive fact, but in case the competition increases their credit period, it turns out to be favorable for us.
Great. Just one more question, sir. In our journey of branding, where are we? What kind of expenses? Because we are to the largest competitor in the industry. Our ad expenses are far higher. So where are we in terms of developing our brand and in terms of because we are changing our product mix, moving towards more value-added, higher premium brands. So where are we in that journey?
I'm sorry, could you please be a little more specific as to what exactly do you want to know?
What could be our brand expenses to sales, and where are we going to spend and put our energies?
So at the company level, historically we've maintained an average of 8% of our top line as brand expenditure. Last year was an exception because of the situation. We had brought it down to 5%. And this year again we will be reviewing it whether to maintain at 8 or maybe bring it down to 6 to 7%. And the way this ad expenditure budget is split across different brands depends upon different kinds of market situations and the company's policy as a whole. So as you very correctly mentioned, we are looking at premiumizing our product portfolio from economy to mid and from mid to premium. So the company spends more on their premium and mid-premium offerings rather than the economy offerings.
Great. So just one last question. Any kind of margin pressure do we expect in near term in terms of raw material pricing?
So see, whenever the raw material prices increase, the company always ends up passing it on to the consumer. And we've done that historically. We've done that last to last quarter. And we'll be doing it again. So our margins do not get affected by any inflationary pressures on the input side.
Great, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ankit Kedia from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Sir, my first question is on the ASP. If I look for the full FY21, the ASP increase in premium was is 10% vis-a-vis 6%. But in quarter 4, the price increase in premium is 12% vis-a-vis 18% in economy. So what would be the absolute price differential between economy to mid to premium category now for us? So from a customer upgrade perspective, right, what kind of money does a customer need to spend to upgrade from economy to mid premium for us?
So see, generally what happens is, whenever the input costs go up, the percentage of cotton in the entire product is obviously more so in the economy product, and as you move up the ladder, the percentage contribution of the raw material drops down because the margins increase. So whatever inflationary pressure is there is definitely passed on to the consumer.
So Ankit, like as rightly said by Udit ji, again the question what you are asking, like how much the extra bucks a customer need to incur while moving from one basket to another basket, right? So if you see my average pricing for the premium product, say like on or 1.8, it is coming in the range of around 150 rupees plus, whereas my economy range starts from say 30-35 rupees till say 60-70 rupees types. So it all depends in which product we are buying, which kind of category we are buying. Otherwise, the difference between the economy and the premium would be very significant. There is a range of around 30 rupees to 80 rupees in economy, whereas premium starts from say around 150 to 180, 190, 200 types.
Sure. So my second question is regarding GenX. Now, if I look at JMHL had a 300 crore top line which got merged. But if I look at the athleisure part of GenX, is only a 100 crore business. So the remaining 200 crore business of this company predominantly lies in which brand or which category, if you can help us understand, because our understanding was bulk of that business is actually athleisure and GenX.
So actually the business in JM, which was majoritively under the brand GenX, we have done a brand restructuring which started last year and which is continuing for this year and will go ahead for the next year as well. So it's a complete 3 years project, and in that project we have restructured many of our products under the GenX brand to come under Lux Venus and Lux Cozy, because we have believed that such products can have a better pull in the market, as they are dedicated to such kind of consumers which are very well attracted towards the Lux brand. So Lux Venus, Lux Cozy and Lux Karishma are the 3 brands which are carved out of the business of JM, and the GenX, which is mainly the athleisure in it, has a total revenue of around 103 crores, and out of it is majoritively dominated by the athleisure, and the total athleisure wear in the company, which includes in GenX, Lyra, On and One8, is approximately 150 to 160 crores.
Sure. And sir, my last question would be on the margins front. Now with the merger coming in, do we expect any merger synergies to come in, given that, as you just said that in GenX the brands have been restructured to some of the existing brands in the company. There could be HR advertising overlap which could have happened. So the 20% margins which we saw this year, given that the A&P were lower, and even in FY22 you're guiding for lower A&P spends, can we safely assume if the commodity price inflation remains the way it is, we will be able to achieve the 20% EBITDA margins even for FY22?
So Ankit, Saurabh here again. So the thing is that definitely, as rightly asked by you, this merger is going to bring some level of the synergy on the table. We are also expecting the way we have restructured the brand and the way we are seeing the sales growth and the other aspect of the business, we are expecting around 150 basis point kind of margin improvement should be there for the current year. And like last year, we have spent around 5.5% in the advertisement. But few minutes back, as we clarified, that this year again the advertisement cost can bounce back to around 7% type. So it may offset to my incremental margin. So EBITDA definitely we can maintain at the same level.
That's helpful. Thank you so much, Saurabh, and all the best to the team.
Thank you, Ankit.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants in the conference, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have a follow-up question, we would request you to rejoin the question queue. The next question is from the line of Shalini Gupta from Quantum Securities. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sir, I wanted to check with you. See, last year, a lot of the economy business was driven by rural sales, and now this year we have a situation where rural sales are impacted because of far higher COVID impact over there. So, and also now the rural India, there are a lot of lockdowns and all that which were not there last year. Also, we have a high base of rural last year in terms of income. So, what is your outlook in terms of top line growth going forward? As in, which segments do you see pushing your growth in the future in financial year 22?
So, for the rural-urban share, the rural has approximately 70% of the market share, and the urban has around 30% of the market share. Now, coming that the rural demand would be weak, what we have deciphered since the last 12 months, that because of COVID, the unorganized production is getting shut down, and that production benefit has been taken place by the organized sector. So even if the demand is going down by a few basis points, the production or the supply in the economy segment, which is towards the rural area, rural part of the country, is getting down by a much further basis. So that is why there is a new market being created, new consumer segment being created in the rural economy, and the brands which has the most pull in the organized sector will benefit out of it.
Okay. And sir, I had since you restricted the number of questions to 2, there are a couple of like some data points which you had mentioned earlier in the presentation. You had said economy segment grew by 42%, correct?
Yes.
and mid-premium segment?
So mid-premium is, are you talking about the year or for the quarter?
We're talking about the quarter, I think.
Yeah, so economy segment has grown at a rate of 30%. That is the complete sales growth for economy. Mid-premium is around 13% and premium is 7%. That is for the year. Economy has grown by 59% in the quarter. Mid-premium is 42 and premium is 48. Put together, the total growth for the company is coming at around 48-49%.
So economy segment has grown by 59% during the quarter. Mid-premium has grown by how much during the quarter?
42%.
42. Okay. And premium has grown by 48.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you...
even you can refer to slide number 35, the date which is available on our company website. We have given the complete bifurcation over there.
Okay. And so what was the volume growth in the quarter?
The total volume growth for the quarter is around 29-30%.
Okay. Okay. And yes, sir.
Balance is because of the price growth and the mix.
Okay. And sir, I wanted to ask you if just squeeze in one question. So basically, you have seen a huge jump in your gross margins. So how much how much would you about 10% is because of price increase and the rest is because of your mix change?
Yeah, true. Yeah, right, Salini. Even if you see my presentation, we have factored that around 13 to 14% we have gone the price hike in quarter 4 and balance is because of the change in mix. And that has given me a leeway to have my margin more stronger as compared to last year same quarter.
Okay. So my last question, what is your raw material outlook?
So the raw material prices right now, because majority of the raw material comes from Tamil Nadu and Gujarat. So Tamil Nadu again is the state which is under complete lockdown right now. Gujarat has just opened up, but talking to the people in this industry and the people those who are in the yarn manufacturing, we get a sense that the raw material prices are on the inflationary side. They are going, once the market opens up, we expect the raw material prices to go up. But as we have, always mentioned and we'll mention it again, that, if we face any increase in raw material prices, we increase the price of our products, pass it on to the consumer and maintain our margins intact.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Salini.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Punit Mittal from Global Core Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you and congratulations for a good set of numbers. My first question is related to your advertisement and branding spend. How much of the total amount that you spend, or the percentage, how much is going towards the new gen digital advertisement in terms of advertisements on Facebook, Instagram, and so forth?
So this year, as we mentioned, one of our focus areas is growth coming in from our e-commerce sales. And so we are getting our web page and we are getting our, the platform ready. And along with that, we'll also be looking at increasingly spending on the digital platform. So right now, most of our sales are happening to third-party websites like Flipkart, Myntra, and Amazon. So, whatever e-commerce sales we get, so the company spends roughly about 5% of sales from the e-commerce platform in the digital advertising space. And going ahead, we believe that we are looking at a very high growth rate coming in from the e-commerce sector, and therefore we'll also be considerably increasing our ad spends, diverting more of our ad spends towards the digital space, because that is where we believe that the future lies.
Okay, got it. And a related question on that. So you highlighted historically you have spent about 8% of revenues on advertisements and branding. Now, given the base is very large of 2,000 crore right now, and going forward as you grow, the base becomes even bigger. And also the fact that you mentioned that you do enjoy a very big brand pull and brand equity in the market at this stage. So given these two factors, do you think, how do you explain that 8%, which is quite a sizable number, and as the base effect goes higher, it's a large number to spend, also given where the competition is. How do you explain that, and do you really think it's necessary for the company to spend that high number in terms of revenue?
So see, the position that, right now we've reached about roughly 2,000 crores in sales. And one of the major reasons for us outperforming our peers in the market was because we've always invested in our brand building exercise. And whatever brands that the company now has under its belt, every brand, if you see, is set to reach the 500 crore mark and become a 500 crore brand. So all of this is only achievable on grounds of spending your ad expenditure, on maintaining the brand building exercise. And that is one area where we believe that it is more so of an investment rather than an expenditure. And over the past 5 years, we've always invested in our brands. And we believe that, it's a number which has already been factored into our costings and into our margins. So going ahead, it should be somewhere in the similar zone.
Okay. And then my second question is regarding your push into the southern region of India. So is there a specific strategy that you're adopting for the southern market because it's a new region for you? And what are the challenges that you see for you to penetrate deeper into that region?
So see, the South Indian market, if you see, is a very peculiar market. It behaves very differently from Northern India because, there is a language barrier. The entire North India speaks and understands Hindi and English as a common language. But when it comes to South India, all the 4 states of South India have their own regional languages, and Hindi is not quite popular over there. So that is why our advertisements kind of do not make a mark in the South Indian market. So yes, as a strategy from we believe in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll be kind of investing in local advertising, making, adopting more of the local strategy to penetrate that market. They are having local pocket players in every state, and we believe that the company has always been very, very strong in its marketing strength and marketing team. So with the required amount of effort, dedication, and advertisement, we'll be able to crack that market.
Thank you, Mr. Mittal. May we request that you return to the question queue for follow-up questions. Thank you. The next question is from the line of Arpit Shah from Stallion Asset. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi management. Congratulations for a great set of numbers. I just had 3 questions for you. If I look at the leader is getting aggressively on the rural front with a new portfolio, right? And if you the leader is getting aggressive on the rural portfolio, how do you look to defend such a player in that kind of a market? And even if I look at all other players, let's say Rupa or a Dollar Industries, they're all focusing on expanding distribution, they're focusing on premiumization of the portfolio. So how do you differentiate yourself from that competition?
See, the most differentiating factor is a brand. The most differentiating factor is a brand which is not available with our competitors. And as we see that in the market and the research which we also conduct in the market, that our brand has been projected as the most pull brand. So we believe that this is a USP which we have, which our competitors don't have. And because that is the reason we have been able to lower our debtor days in the market, and our distributors are paying up pretty faster than that of our peers.
Got it. So if I look at your sales mix this year, we have seen a big jump in economy segment, right? And despite that, we have seen a big jump in margins, and which is broadly matching to the leader. So where do you see the margins going, let's say in the next 3 to 4 years? We are broadly 20-22%, let's say for quarter 4. So where do you see it going in the next 3-4 years qualitatively?
So for the current financial year, our target is to maintain the last year financial year margin, which is approximately 19.99%. So because we see a good improvement in the gross margins, which can be adjusted with the margins going down due to advertisement, so the net margin should remain the same.
Got it. Got it. Sir, if you can just provide some color on how the working capital can move in the next 3 to 4 years. We are broadly at 122 days right now. So how do you expect in the next 3 to 4 years? What would the trend be like?
So see, what we see that anyway in last 12 to 18 months we have worked very rigorously to bring down our working capital cycle. And by seeing the current pandemic, it is not advisable, as well as we are not taking any aggressive decision further to reduce the working capital, at least for this year. It would be very unfair if I can say anything immediately that how it will look like after 2 to 3 years, because I believe we should wait for some time, let this pandemic get over. Our economy should get stabilized. We should be back to the normalcy, and then again we will rethink and replan our working capital cycle as well as to fix the market.
Got it. Got it. And what would be your reinvestment plans going forward, given the cash that we are generating around 350, 400 crores? What would be your typical reinvestment plans going ahead? Would you be spending on brands? Would you be spending on capacities? Would you be spending more on promotion, advertising? How the reinvestments would look like?
So see, the cash can be mainly used for 2-3 different purposes. So like as you rightly said, a part of the cash can be used for the purpose of expansion. Definitely a substantial chunk of the money should be used for the purpose of rewarding the shareholder who has actually put their hard-earned money in the company to get into the growth path. So I believe these are the 2-3 verticals where definitely company is evaluating that how and when, how much the investment can be done.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. May we request that you return to the question queue for follow-up questions. Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sufyan Lakdawala from Lalkar Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for the opportunity. So I just want to know, you had capex plan of 110 crores, right? So what it will be towards that, which premium products, premium segments, and how much that can generate revenue?
Your voice is completely unaudible.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, I can hear.
Yeah. So the company has a capex plan of 110 crores expansion plan.
Mm-hmm.
So will it be towards like which product segment?
Okay. So the majority of
22 capex, if you can give the guidance.
The majority of the capex will be dedicated to our economy and the mid-premium segment, because as currently we are seeing that the demand in the economy and the mid-premium segment is so strong that it might not be possible for us to cater the whole demand in the market. So our immediate requirement would be to set up the capex for economy and the mid-premium segment.
Okay. So what will be the net total capacity? Can you give the segment wise?
The total capacity would be very difficult to project you as of now, because the capex is, the factory is still under construction and it will take at least next 12 months more to completely start up with it. But majoritively will be dominated by the economy and the mid-premium segment.
Oh, okay. So the 110 is capex plan for FY22 then?
Can you come again? Sorry.
So total will be 110 capex for FY22?
So it will be over a period of 12 to 18 months. The capex, we have already started incurring the capex, but I believe by seeing the current pandemic, it may be delayed by around 3 to 6 months. So there will be a spill over to FY23 as well. But the company is not holding the entire project. As and when one of the facility will be up and running, we will start using that facility.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shirish Pardeshi from Centrum Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity, and good evening, Saket and Udit and Saurabh. It's a very good presentation I have come across from you, and I really appreciate for the details. However, I have got 2-3 questions. When I refer your slide 35, and which says that your ASP growth is 13%, while in reality the yarn prices has gone beyond. So would you be able to help me to understand what is the weighted inflation we are facing, and to what extent we have taken the price increases, or is there any more price increases are in pipeline?
So actually, there's an increase in the yarn prices, that doesn't reflect the increase in the price of the product totally, because there is a percentage of the yarn which goes into the production. Other processes, which is stitching, dyeing, bleaching, cutting, packing, and all other overheads are also a part of the product. So according to that, according to the yarn prices increment, there has been a increase in the actual costing of the product by approximately 13%, and for which the increase in the cost we have taken place.
So you mean to say that, if I understand correctly, the current inflation is 13%, which is weighted, and you have taken a complete pass on. If there is further price increases, we will wait for another round of price increase.
So that completely depends on the yarn prices, how it reacts after the Tamil Nadu market is opened. It completely depends on that. But what we are seeing and what we are hearing all around is that there will be again an increase in the yarn prices. So there would be a further increase in our sales price.
Okay, wonderful. You did mention in the beginning the 300 million pieces is the volume for FY21, correct?
Sorry, can you come again?
FY21 volume was 300 million pieces.
Yes.
So does that include the two merged entity, or it is outside?
Yes, it includes all. Lux includes now everything.
Okay.
So it's the number of the complete consolidated Lux group of companies, Lux, Ebell, JM, and Artemis.
Wonderful. So thank you for that explanation. Would you be able to split, like you gave me a split of revenue by segment, which is premium, mid, premium, and economy for value? Can you split that 300 million pieces for volume also?
In the percentage terms, it's already there in the deck. If you see like the volume percentage between premium, sub-premium, and economy, it is there on the slide number 20, but it is just from the growth perspective. If you need a absolute number, definitely my IR can provide those numbers to you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will take the last question from the line of Nikhil from SIMPL. Please go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity, and congratulations on a great set of numbers. Congrats for a great work. I have two questions. One is, if we look at our realization, it comes to around 66 rupees per piece based on the total sales and volume. Now, if we have to move on the higher price band, then our premium brands like ONN, 18, Lyra, and some of the thermals and all have to contribute. Thermals has grown very strongly. On ONN, and if we look at the trajectory of the brand ONN and Lyra and all, how do you see the growth for brand ONN and for Lyra? If you look at, there is a lot of competition, even organized, unorganized, and even the listed players, both are also there in the legging segment. How do you see overall price range moving up for Lyra? And a connected question is, if we look at our P&L based on the annual report for Ebell, which we had shared, the ad spends and promotion is almost 12 to 15% of sales. Would you say that the quantum of investment which we were doing behind Lyra will sustain, or would that also come back to 7-8%, which we are guiding for the company level? If you can just help me on these two brands, because these will drive the premium journey a lot.
Yeah. So as you had mentioned, so last year was an exception because of the COVID scenario, in which we had seen a slight decline. You mentioned in Lyra, we were able to capture 90% of sales of what we did in the corresponding period last year. So, because as you know, in the COVID scenario, women's wear all across the economy, whether it is apparels, whether it is cosmetics, whether it is any other segment, women's wear, as you know, products being consumed by women has taken the majority of the hit. So even despite that situation, we were able to recover 90% of our sales, which we believe was, which we believe was also a commendable task. And going ahead, as you mentioned, within the right now about 80-85% of our sales is being driven by the legging segment. And going ahead, we are expanding more so in the athleisure for women under the same brand Lyra, and also in the innerwear space, which is lingerie for women. So these are the two areas which are our focus areas for growth within the same brand. And we believe those are the areas where we'll be able to build the brand better and at the same time get better margins and better ASPs. So our products in the athleisure and the innerwear segment are already out there in the market and they are doing quite well. It is just that in the next maybe 2 or 3 financial years, we'll be able to ramp it up and maybe multiply it 2x every year. So that is what we're looking at when it comes to the brand Lyra. So we believe that in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll be seeing a good, a major driver of the growth coming in from Lyra. And as well as ONN is concerned, again, if you see, making an exception of the last year, if you see the last to last year, the growth has always been there in the premium segment. And again, even within the portfolio of the ONN, athleisure as the category has been doing quite well and performing quite well. So these are the reasons I believe that the ASPs will be higher and at the same time, it will be one of the major growth drivers for the company. I believe I've been able to answer your question.
So just 2 things. One is, since we are adding more product lines behind Lyra, so the investment behind ad spends and promotion, which was like fairly high as compared to our company average of 12-15%.
I'm just cutting you in between, but we believe that even if you look at the balance sheets of Ebell Fashions, which was mainly Lyra, our ad expenditure has in fact been at par with what we do in Lux, which is about 8%. In fact, it was slightly lesser than 8. It was about 6 to 7%.
Oh.
So we believe that 6 to 7% even during the current financial is what we are guiding as an advertisement expenditure, and our ad expenditures will remain in the same category.
So if I'm sorry to elongate it, but if I'm not wrong, the numbers from the annual reports which I get, the ad spend and promotion was around 30-40 crores on a top line of 200 to 300 crores. This is based on the annual reports which we had filed with the ROC. Probably I can take it offline then. From 18 to 20, 21 number we don't have. So
okay.
Sure, no issues. We are taking this question.
Yeah, I can take it offline. So rather than second point, So second question was, sir, as you mentioned that on the unorganized side, as you said that in the rural, many of the plants have been shut down and supply is a major issue. And over the last 1 year, what we have seen is we have done a great job in reducing our working capital, but even for our listed competitors, they've been able to do a decent job in reducing the net working capital days. And one thing which you mentioned that even if the players or the unorganized regional or the competitors, even if they increase the credit period, it will be beneficial for us. I didn't get it intuitively. If you can just spend some time and help me understand why it should be beneficial. I would have thought that the distributor would be like going for a product where he is getting a more credit period or probably better margins.
So see, it is a completely market-driven strategy, and it's a marketing call. So what happens is, it is not that जो ज़्यादा credit period देगा, उनका goods will get sold first. It is always what the customer is demanding in the market, what gets sold. So if the customer comes and demands that I want a particular brand called Lux from the market, so the distributor will always have to supply that brand first. So the credit period is a direct function as to what your brand pull is. So that is why we mentioned that even after we have reduced our credit period in the market, it will, and if the competition reacts in whatever way, it will not affect our brand pull in the market, because ultimately when the customer is coming into the shop and asking you for a particular branded product, the retailer as well as the distributor has to supply that particular brand. And that is how the marketing always works.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's okay. You can.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, due to time constraint, we will take that as the last question. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Udit Todi for closing comments.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining this call. I hope we've been able to address all your queries. For any further information, kindly get in touch with our strategic growth advisors, those who are our investor relation advisors. Thanking you once again for participating in the call.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Lux Industries Limited, we conclude this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.